What's going on? Welcome to Shred Gaming, and today we are going to talk about how FGC events need to switch over from tournaments to fight cards. And as always, like, subscribe, comment down below, tell me if you agree, if you disagree, if you like the way things are, or if you'd like to see things change or see something a little bit different. Anyway, let me know what you think. Now let's get after it. So about 1 or 2 weeks after EVO ended, the topic got brought up about the payouts among the professional players. Now, I'm not gonna lie, EVO, the payouts were pretty bad. It was like a $190,000 prize pool spread out amongst 9 different games, in which the highest paid player only received, I think it was $9,000. The highest viewed game was actually Street Fighter V, and the first place take home was $5,500. For a professional tournament, that's pretty bad. Now, whether or not EVO is a friendly competition and it celebrates fight games in which we get together and we just, you know, have a good time, or it's a professional competition that you're going there to, you know, make some money, that's kind of up to EVO. It was kind of marketed as the former. Regardless, I feel like the topic of changing the format to fight cards was brought up, but then it was talked about for maybe 2 weeks and then almost dropped, and the FGC went on to the next thing. But when I heard it, my mind was blown. I'm like, why don't we keep talking about this? So I wanted to bring it up again, especially with projectl on the horizon, and Riot Games is most likely going to bring about big events for this game. I would like to bring up the conversation one more time and maybe even take it a step further. I will warn you that, you know, from an investor standpoint, that some of these changes may be unwanted, which means we need to ask ourselves, do we like the way the FGC is right now? Do we want to remain grassroots, or do we want to see things, you know, grow, kind of become a little bit more corporate? Now, that doesn't take away from all the smaller things like the fan art, the cosplay contests, the, you know, the conventions and whatnot. Those are still there. If you look at League of Legends, they still have that stuff, and that game is huge. But in order for the FGC to grow, in order for these professionals to get bigger payouts, and for fighting games to become a more viable part of esports and to be taken a lot more seriously, we need to think maybe we do need some kind of corporate entity to come step in. Maybe we do need bigger sponsors and bigger endorsers. Now, we do have some pretty big sponsors. We do have Sony, we do have Red Bull in some of these fight games. However, we don't know how much they're actually like giving to these events, which asks the question about how seriously does these endorsements actually like take fighting game tournaments. So if you don't already know, a fight card, to briefly explain, is literally an itinerary. It's a program of the matches that are going to take place at an event. There's always like 6 to 10 undercards and then 1 or 2 main events. Usually there's only one main event. It's usually the 2 most popular fighters brought up, or, you know, sometimes it's a title fight. I've seen 2 title fights in the UFC before. Now, not only do I think that fight cards are a great idea because it'll be a lot more lucrative for the professional fighting game players, but also it just kind of makes sense. I mean, fighting games are 1v1, MMA, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, those are all 1 versus 1, you know, matches. Now, tournaments don't make sense for boxing and MMA because, I mean, who wants to go in and, you know, do 6 different matches and, you know, get the crap beat out of you like each time, and then you have to keep going and going and going. So yeah, obviously it doesn't make sense. But for fighting games, I think it would be a great layout, but it also means that events have to change dramatically. So in order for this to work, the first thing is, and this is kind of hard to say, but developers kind of need to fork more money over. When League of Legends first came out, when they first started doing like the world tournaments, Riot Games forked over a lot of money for their prize pools, and they did that because they wanted League of Legends to be taken very seriously. And so when you have bigger prize pools or you have a bigger purse, that means a lot of players and spectators are actually going to take it very seriously because they want to win more money, and the spectators want to see people win more money. It creates a lot of drama, it creates a lot of hype, it creates a lot of, you know, incentive. So with more money does come a lot more spectators. I mean, can you imagine a Street Fighter main event where Kawano versus Daigo fight it out and there's $500,000 on the line? That's big. So that's kind of something that we can look at. Now, this next one, a lot of people might not like, and I'm sorry, but this is my opinion. This is the way I feel about it. I think fighting game organizations need to be exclusive. Now, fighting games have always been open format. Anybody who wants to compete can come, they can pay the entry fee, and anybody can compete, and that's all great and all, but things like the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, they don't just let people in and play. You have to be a talented player. So in order for this to work, for fight cards to actually work, you need to elevate professional fighting game players to a more celebrity status. Now, don't get me wrong, we do have celebrity status within the FGC, and also there's people like Sonic Fox who are even uplifted to that status that are outside of the FGC. But within, we have people like, you know, Idom, Punk, Angry Bird, Big Bird, we have Daigo, Kawano. You know, we have some pretty big names, but in order for these fight cards to work, people need to know who they are, who they're watching, or else like the undercards and the main events wouldn't work. And that's why things like Conor McGregor versus Khabib, that's why that worked, because people knew who they were. And the fight cards are usually for, you know, either the up and comers, or maybe somebody's trying to earn their way up to the main event, earn their way up to a title fight, so they do all the undercards. But even still, with the undercards, it does still need to be exclusive towards those top tier players. In this last part, and this is kind of my favorite part, and I really want to see this change, I think that the matches themselves shouldn't be best out of 2, best out of 3, best out of 5. I honestly think that they should be long form. And when I say long form, it could be a couple of different things, but I don't think that a best out of 5 for a main event is very fun to watch. I think it should be 12 rounds, or first to 10. First to 12 would be great. My personal favorite, and this is what I'd love to see at like a main event, I would like to see kind of like a tennis match format where it's best of 4 wins a game, win 6 games, you win a set, you win 2 sets, you win the match. Because I've watched a lot of these players actually practice. They're usually playing like 400, 500 games at a time. They can definitely handle long form. They can definitely handle, you know, best out of 10 or best out of 12. If you watch the grand finals at Evo with Kawano versus Idom won 5 games in a row, brought him back, and then they had to go another 5 matches. So that's like, you know, 10 matches you had to go there. And then, you know, Kawano ended up taking it. However, it kind of shows that it takes a long time to figure your opponent out, or it takes a long time to hold that momentum. So I don't think best out of 3 or best out of 5 is the best way to go. I honestly think a lot of these fights should be best out of 10, best out of 12, or like really long format, like you know, like a tennis match. So in conclusion, I do think that events need to change. I think we need to bring in a lot more endorsements and advertisement. I really think developers need to actually like give a lot more money to these tournaments in order for these bigger payouts to happen, because it's not going to happen without the developers supporting these tournaments. So I really like to see fight cards happen. I know it's kind of a hot take about the whole exclusivity thing, but I think that's what needs to happen. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to be able to be found out. I mean, that's what these locals or these small tournaments are for, these small fights are for. But just like any boxer or MMA fighter, they're always found out. If you're talented enough, you will be found out. And I'd really like to see things be played out in a long format. I'd really like to see like the tennis match style. I'd really like to see like the best out of 10s, the best out of 12s, because I feel like it really does take a long time to figure out your opponent. I don't think you can just do it in 5 games. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. Again, comment down below. I'd really like to hear about what you guys think. Until next time, shred out.